Again, I'm Skip Bridges.
What is your name, please? I'm
Skip
sorry.
Bridges,
Oh, thank
Lakeside
you.
Drive, 65 Lakeside Drive. With regret and with great respect, I must record my objection to Mr. Boyer's considering anything with respect to this application because of his actions over the past year on behalf of the applicant. And by that, I'm referring to the decision that you issued at the end of June of last year, which was specifically intended to nullify the action of the zoning board of adjustment that had denied the application in a large part because of the proposed amenities that are before you.
Okay, you're going
And
to...
also,
No,
no,
sir,
I'm not
sir.
finished, sir. I get to state my grounds.
No, make it
Point of
brief.
order.
Make it brief.
I will state my grounds. The second is that you yourself have stated that as far as you're concerned, Three Pines Resort can install as many park models as they want on their property, on all of their campsites, which suggests that you have a predisposition to what they should be able to do. And because as the code enforcement officer, you apparently have decided not to enforce any provisions of the Milton zoning code, zoning ordinance, or the building code with respect to this application.
Thank you. Bruce, do we want to read the intermediate?
I suggest that you recuse, sir.
Pardon?
And I suggest that you recuse.
Thank you for your suggestion, sir. From our attorney?
As you all know, the board really wanted some guidance on how to proceed with whether to accept this application or not. Right at the top, I am going to tell you that there are 3 requests for waivers from the site plan regulations. Otherwise, the application meets all of the requirements of your site plan regulations. But secondly, the board also has to consider whether the application meets zoning before it can be accepted. To that end, you also have to consider any decisions that were made by the zoning board with regard to this use out here. Because of the complexities here, you wanted that legal guidance, and that was requested of the town's attorney, Walter Mitchell. And here is his response to the board for guidance, and I'm going to read it into the record.
Could I just bring up one point? Just being on the Board of Selectmen, and we've been advised by a couple of different attorneys never to read in the attorney's opinion word for word. So I don't know.
I was not advised of that in this case. And
Okay.
I'll do whatever the board wants me to, but I really feel that this needs to be read into the record.
I would agree.
For
I
many
just
reasons. It
going
can
off
be a
from
public
what-
document. This isn't.
Thanks.
This
It's a
isn't-
heads up is what it
This
is.
isn't a privileged legal document. This is an opinion from your attorney as to what you can do in a public meeting. So I think that it should be public. But if you want to make a motion, all right with me.
I guess I just wanted to bring it up, being on the board and being told that in the past. So
I think it's much better for us to read this into the record.
I don't disagree. I just wanted to bring that to the
It's a heads
attention of
up,
the board.
appreciate
so-
it.
Yeah.
Proceed, Bruce.
The town administrator and I received this this afternoon, and one of the reasons why it was so late is because the town attorney's firm no longer had all of the decisions that were made over the last couple of years with regard to the Mighty Joe Campground. And so I spent a few hours today on Dana's computer finding those and then emailing them to Laura Spencer Morgan. So here it is. Hi Bruce, thanks for getting us new copies of the ZBA's decisions. It was an unusual development that the court took our copies. Your underlying questions passed on from the planning board arise out of the filing of a recent application for site plan approval of the addition of new amenities at Mighty Joe Campground. This application, unlike the ones that were subject of earlier ZBA consideration, involves the proposed addition of amenities only with no expansion in the number of camping sites. Basically, this raises two questions. One, was anything decided by the Zoning Board of Adjustment in that earlier application that would prevent or affect the ability of the campground owner to go forward with this application? And two, does this application need a special exception from the ZBA before it would become final, despite the fact that it proposes no new campsites? In response to the first question, I have reviewed the decisions actually made by the ZBA in Mighty Joe's earlier application. Although there may have been some discussion about whether or not expansion of the amenities alone would need a special exception, that specific question was hypothetical and was never formally before the board, as at that time the application always included a significant number of new campsites. I conclude this despite the fact that on September 6, 2018, the ZBA dealt with an appeal by Barry and Karen Barco et al., challenging what appeared to be an administrative decision of the Milton Land Use Office, which seems to have been pushing the ZBA to make a decision on this very question. However, that decision, granting the appeal, was made not on the merits, but on the basis that the appeal decision was, quote, premature because it was made without a specific plan, unquote. As it did not reach the underlying merits of the question and was not appealed, it provides no additional direction in this context. Therefore, that question was never formally addressed by the ZBA, and there is nothing that has been decided that would prevent the new application to the planning board from proceeding. The second question is more nuanced. Campgrounds are only allowed by special exception in this zone. Therefore, the present use is a grandfathered non-conforming use. Article 7 of the Milton zoning ordinance says that such non-conforming uses may continue unchanged, but then explains that minor expansion shall be allowed if the nature and intent of the use is not changed and the expansion does not adversely affect the surrounding areas. Keeping in mind that it is the board member's job, not the attorney's, to make the subjective judgments involved in interpreting and applying the ordinance, I expect that the planning board members will lean toward a decision that recognizes the proposal does not change the nature and intent of the existing use, whether or not they also conclude that it will not adversely affect the surrounding area will depend on what the evidence is that comes before the board on that question. I suspect that as long as the proposal is clearly conditioned on these amenities being for use by the campers only, the board might well decide that this proposal does not constitute more than a minor expansion, and therefore a special exception is not required. I recommend that this preliminary issue be addressed first by the board, after the board decides whether this proposal creates the likelihood of regional impact, and then the board may proceed to consideration of the merits of the amenity application. Please keep in mind that if the planning board decides that a special exception is not necessary, anyone unhappy with that decision will have the right to appeal it to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Please let us know if there are any further questions. Walter Mitchell Municipal Group. So, the only question before you tonight is to determine if the application can be accepted or not. Once accepted, then you can delve into the two questions, I believe, that the attorney has talked about. But you really have to get beyond that threshold. It's either acceptance or not acceptance, and that's board business. Once you do that, the best thing to do is to maybe confer with the applicant's representative that's over here tonight to my left, and figure out when the best date for a public hearing would be.
So here we still sit. Any opinions, questions? How do we feel about whether we will accept this or not? Is there any questions that Bruce can answer? Or
Well, it sounds like to me that it's very limited on what it's allowed to do, that we're looking at and everything, that, not from what you were stating and so forth. And it's reasonable as far as campground sites. And you guys agree or not?
Of the application.
Huh?
Do we have copies of the application?
We had copies. What were the copies, Bruce, of the application?
Well, I have the half-size copies,
Yeah,
and really, I'll get them.
yeah. I don't know, Kathy didn't put them in the packet.
I mean, am I wrong? Is it not just about adding a small amount of campground sites, right?
Well, not even, there's no campus ground sites at all being added.
Okay.
It's just the
I'm
amenities.
sorry, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it.
Yes, amenities.
Yes, amenities.
I respectfully caution the board to not discuss the merits of the case until you have either accepted or not accepted the case, and then which time you wouldn't discuss it anyway. That said, really the only thing you want to look at is where it talks about, I believe on the second or third page on the left-hand side, it talks about the waivers that are requested, and there are 3. So if you accept, your motion would acknowledge the waivers requested.
That's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
So basically, what we have to determine is whether the amenities meet the zoning and,
Right, so you have a legal opinion from the town attorney.
Yep.
And you have my testimony to you that I've gone through this plan and that it meets your site plan regulations with the exception of the 3 waivers.
Point of order. He just said that he's testifying.
he's the town planner, sir.
Well, I know, but he should not be testifying if it's not a public hearing.
All right, I'm stating to the board that the application meets your site plan regulations and may be accepted on that basis, but it is up to you whether you follow the town attorney's advice or not. It's on the 4th page. Waivers requested are the following. The applicant is requesting a waiver from section 11D5, building elevations submitted as part of the application. And their justification for your granting that waiver is that the nearest property line is over 850 feet from a proposed building, and full building plans will be submitted as part of the building permit process. And I was wrong, there's only 2 waivers, not 3. And the second waiver requested is of section 15H1A, lighting plan submitted as part of the site plan review application. The justification for your granting that waiver is the nearest property line is over 750 feet from the amenities area. Exterior lighting will be limited, in keeping with camping experience. Any outdoor lighting that is provided shall be dark sky approved with full cutoff fixtures, per the lighting note on the site development plan. Those are the 2 waivers. I'm sorry, I told you it was 3.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah.
How's the board feeling about this?
Make a motion to accept with the waivers. Is there any reason why not?
Motion to accept the application?
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
With the waivers.
I'll make a second.
We have 2 seconds. Any discussion, questions? Not hearing any? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Application is accepted. We'll go over the waivers.
Mr. Chairman, I think there's a little bit of unfinished business here. We could just rely on the applicant to pay the fees for the public hearing and get the applications in. Otherwise, it's my feeling that you could set the public hearing tonight
Yep.
and rely on, of course, the people here being, that are interested in this case and will know it, and they can spread the word. We will also, post the agendas and,
Yep.
and the public notice would come out as well. We need to have 10 days, not including tonight and not including the meeting that you set it in, to make sure that abutters get their notices and that the notice goes into the paper. So it's good to have at least 2 weeks
Yep.
for us to do our thing. And there is no Dana Crossley.
I know.
There's only me.
2 weeks is the 21st.
Uh,
So we do the 21st or the 4th? That makes
I
sense.
would suggest the meeting after that.
I would think I'd like to get into June with that.
I think it's June 2nd is the first Tuesday.
June 4th.
June
All right.
4th.
4th or 18th.
Okay, here it is. I got it.
June 4th or the 18th, is that what you said?
Those are our 2 scheduled dates for meetings.
Yeah,
Can-
June 4th. And normally, the ministerial deadlines for meetings, the deadline for the June 4th meeting would have been yesterday, on May 6th.
So then maybe we should go out to the next one, the 18th?
Yeah,
Is that acceptable?
yes.
Do we have anything else to file?
Is it?
Do we have anything else to file? I mean, everything's filed from our perspective, so I don't know that we're concerned with the deadline. June 4th is fine with us. I can check the 18th quickly.
June 4th, we wouldn't have would we have everything ready for mail tomorrow? No?
I'm not sure. You provided a whole application with the abutters and the mailing? Okay. Yeah, the deadline is kind of a moot point here because they have all their materials in.
Is that gonna give us enough time though?
Either of
Yes.
those dates in June is fine with us.
We do 18th.
What do you people wanna decide?
It gives
Yeah.
us more time if we have the 18th.
You wanna do the 4th or the 18th?
The 4th, we have enough time.
Okay. Everybody in favor of the 4th? 4th. Sounds good.
Okay.
June 4th, 6:30. That'll be scheduled.
Want to make a motion?
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we hold the public hearing on June 4th at
Second.
6:30.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All set?
Thank you, folks. Thank you. See you next month.
Second.
Larry did.
Larry.
Larry did, yeah.
Before you move on, if you would indulge me for just a second. There's a little bit of a personal note that I wanted to get on the record as well, and when I use the word testify, it's because I couldn't think at that moment of a different word. As you may or may not know, in 2015 I had an aneurysm in my brain burst, and I had blood on my brain, and I was taken by emergency vehicle to Maine Medical, where I underwent 5 brain procedures. And if you could see above my hairline, you'd see a couple of scars, one that goes from here to here and one that goes from here to here. After that, I had 3 additional procedures where they went up through my groin to put a number of stainless steel or titanium clips in my head, because I have 2 other aneurysms, and I have an AVM as well that I've had since birth, but they didn't burst. I went to rehab, and one of the things that the rehab specialist told me was that I have a condition that probably won't get better, so that I can't remember words when I need them sometimes, and I'll go, And they taught me, the speech therapist taught me, that I had to substitute words that were close to what I was trying to think of. And that's what I was doing.
Not a problem.
Not at all. Good.
I think you're doing darn good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Good.
Okay, on to the planning board bylaws.
The board has now received both your previous bylaws that you put in place in 2018, that you've been putting in place for years, and you've received the proposed draft 2019 planning board bylaws. It is a different document. It does include everything that was in the other one, but it includes other things that are recommended by the Office of Strategic Initiatives bylaws template that is in the back of your planning board handbook for New Hampshire. So this is more in line with that. So I think what we need to do tonight, before too many more months goes by, is settle on one or the other, and you can add and subtract whatever you want to do. If you want to just go with the old 2018, you can do that. If you want to go with the 2019, you can do that, or you can revise one or the other.
Kind of partial to the new ones. I'm kind of partial to the new ones.
I like the new one. I like the new one.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Make a motion
Accept it.
To approve the 2019 planning board, Milton planning board bylaws. Do we have a second?
I second.
Discussion?
I haven't even seen them, I don't have them.
Here's the 18s.
Yeah. But I don't have anything that's new or anything.
Well, even if you vote against it, you don't lose.
Okay.
You want to copy the 2019?
If I could please, I'm sorry. Okay then.
I think the reason why you don't have it is because Dana's not here to fill up your binder.
That's what it is.
You did receive them at the last meeting or the meeting before that, but
Okay.
I think we can all understand.
I'm
That's why
sorry.
this thing's a mess.
What am I?
I know mine's too, that's why I
They're
didn't bring
falling
it.
apart.
Would you like to read them, Lynette, before we move?
Oh, you so, no way.
We'll gladly wait for you. All those in favor? Opposed?
I'm not saying
Okay.
that.
Review of the capital improvement program's draft schedule. Kath did not provide that for us.
I did not,
Kathy didn't. She gave me this bind, I don't think today, let me check.
I guess,
Nope,
I don't know what
I'll get it.
what the code is, but it's right here. I did send it to everyone, email-wise.
Yeah, I got that.
Even the chairman of the board of selectmen is on code.
I already forgot the code.
I don't have a code, and I don't want to get one.
Bruce, is this it?
Yes.
Okay.
Date on it should be,
29 April?
I don't know, you took mine.
29 April?
I think so.
Yeah.
So this week. Yeah, we can. Should get the first chance to watch the public hearing.
And I'm going to tell you in a minute whether it is or not.
All right.
And that, the
I mean,
reason
it's
for
only
that
8
is.
or 9 days ago.
What'd you say?
I had inadvertently left off the Three Ponds Protective Association coming in to present to you their wish for another $10,000. And so they were not on the original schedule, and I've added them. So maybe it's there and maybe it's not.
I thought that was my phone.
I do want to talk about your 2019 Planning Board work schedule while your chair is out of the room on purpose. And that is that,
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. I know, I'm not big enough.
that is your schedule. Your schedule talks about the fact that we are beginning the CIP process tonight, May 7th. And all of the forms, directions, applications, letters explaining how to do it, CIP primers, all of that stuff went out in mid-April to department heads and everybody under the sun in Milton. And so this is the first meeting where we are only have a couple things to do. One, we're going to review and finalize this schedule. And then we're going to take a look at the spreadsheet if you got it. If you didn't, we're probably in big trouble. We're going to discuss the spreadsheet and the status of what did and what didn't pass at town meeting. And that's it until the next time. So, this schedule has the ability to be crunched up just a little bit if we have to, but I'm not doing it. I'm making it so that it's hopefully an easy process through the end of August. And then you'll have as you have had in years past, a public hearing or hearings at the very beginning of September. Your meetings with department heads will begin on June 4th. And that will be a meeting with the police chief and the fire chief. And then it will continue on June 18th with presentations by the Three Ponds Protective Association, the rec department, sewer, water, and the DPW director. Some of those you may not see because they don't have them. I don't know. It's kind of we're in flux right now. And then the meeting after that on July 2nd, happy 4th of July, is with the school, if they come. Conservation Commission, if they have any applications, the library, and town hall. Let's see, and so the final, that's it with regard to meetings. And then the middle of July, on July 16th, you are going to meet with Ernie Creveling, the new town administrator. You're going to review your master plan tie-in matrix. You're going to begin using your Form Cs, formulate additional questions for department heads if you have any, and then I would get them to them. And then your first meeting in August on the 6th, that's the meeting where you're going to discuss rankings after you rate the projects. We're going to talk about the draft report and how it's going to change from last year to this year and your bullet points. We'll do the bullet points on the whiteboard as we've done in the past. And I would like to talk about annual spending levels at that meeting. What is good for the town, that threshold level for capital improvements program, and in a way, this board really shouldn't have to consider whether or not the Board of Selectmen uses unexpended fund balances towards CIP projects or not. You have to look at the big picture, which is you don't really know where the money is coming from. Is it taxes? Is it grants? Is it bonding? The point is that one of your big tasks is, after you do your rating and then ranking of projects, you look at the money figures and you look at this annual funding level and you go down the list until you reach the annual funding level, and those should be the only projects that you're recommending for the 2020 capital year. It's really an easy thing. You have chosen not to do that in the last 3 or 4 years. But in this climate, I really suggest that your report do that. All right, so I'm pontificating. After that, it's a couple of hearings, one on September 3rd, and then a second one if you hear things from the public that makes you change your mind or change what you're going to say in your report. You'd have another hearing on the day after, on the 4th. We are, with your permission, we will be inviting members of the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen to attend the 4 or 5 meetings where the department heads come to present their projects. Now remember, they're only going to present to you new projects added in 2025 or projects that have changed with regard to scope or money. Otherwise, what you see in the spreadsheet that they presented to you in the past will stay exactly the same. That's why the process is easier every year. So it's not a full department head. Here's my budget and here's the things that I'm presenting. It's only going to be for the actual capital improvement program projects that are new or changed. That's it. So, sorry about talking so much.
That June 4th meeting is going to be a good one, because fire and police are going to be here too.
It's perfect.
I think we should do the
Ironic.
fire and police first. Let them boil.
I don't know, maybe you ought to have the police here for the whole meeting.
Okay. Continue discussion review of draft replacement subdivision regulations. Pick up your review at draft section
Mr. Chairman,
13.5.
can someone tell me whether this schedule is A-okay?
I'm fine with it, that's why, yeah.
Want a motion or you good?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion to accept the schedule as written
A second.
and submit it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's at least be adequate.
Nice
You're right,
job.
Larry, it is hot in here.
Yeah, I know. Final question
It is
on
hot
this.
here.
Did you receive copies of the spreadsheet that's been updated? You did receive it in the email from me. This is a much bigger copy, and I was hoping for your next meeting, I will prepare color copies for each one of you. The only thing that I'm gonna tell you about this before you move on to the next thing is that under the previous year column,
Yeah,
the warrant articles that failed are not there. There are little bars for zeros.
yep.
And it will be up to the department head whether they come in again with a recommendation to come in with a different money amount or a different scope of the project or a different type of an acquisition. So we'll be finding that out. That's it. If you want to look at this after the meeting, it'll be right here.
Is there a copy of it online?
I sent it to
Oh, you sent it to me? I'm sorry, I
I
haven't
sent it
looked
to
at my
everybody.
email. Okay, my fault.
Okay, on with more discussion and draft replacement subdivision regulations. Pick up at draft section 13.5, monuments.
Good luck on the order. Because I still haven't figured out mine.
I don't know what to do with this now. I'm handing it back to me.
You want to be on this end?
I don't quite understand how I got so mixed up, but it did.
Well, there's 12. I'm gonna-
Yeah, we had finished up with, all the way to the bottom of page 39. And I don't know where I am. Hold on.
It's 53. I'm
It's
getting more.
completely out of order, Bruce. I'm sorry. I don't know how I did that, but I got page 26 and then page 54 in mine here.
Oh, here's 40. I found 40. You know, I have one missing, but we'll work around that.
Do you have a missing page?
It looks that way. So you were at 13.5 streets and A monuments.
Yep. And that goes to page, I'm all set.
40.
This is 41, but I'll find it.
Yes. Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
long-term question regarding paper streets, so to speak, the interconnectivity of side streets for the convenience of DPW snow management, future construction of any necessary sewer and water connections, and we still have cul-de-sacs not exceeding 1,000 feet.
Right. I changed that number. This was, as you know, most of this was a template. I changed the number to reflect what your subdivision regs speak to today with regard to cul-de-sac length, 1,000 feet. Now, the model had 1,500 feet in it. But again, these numbers are up to the board to tell me what to do.
So you've given us a range to choose from.
Got it.
There are some towns and cities that go longer than 1,000 feet. Some do 1,200, some do 1,500. There might be one or two out there that are as much as 1,800. I don't think there's any out there with 2,000.
Is there an average that we have here in Milton?
No, but you have to think about the lay of the land, and you have to think about your fire department, you have to think about water resources for fighting fires and how far your fire apparatus have to go to get to the fire with adequate water to fight it. So, I'm pretty sure that the 1,000 foot was done because this is Milton. And we don't have a lot of fire of cisterns, and we don't have a lot of dry hydrants with fire ponds. And we may not even know where they all are, but we will someday with regard to the GIS, which will enable us, the planning board, when a subdivision comes to you, you'll be able to say, if there's more than 3, and it's a major subdivision, you'd be able to say, you know, you're in an area of town where the fire apparatus isn't gonna get to you for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, and that looking at our water resources map, we have justification, the basis for requiring you to put in a system or a fire pond and a dry hydrant. So that's part of planning, and that's the reason for it. Until then, I wouldn't recommend changing the not to exceed footage for the cul-de-sac too much.
Page 41, stuck in the top of the still.
So this is this 1,000 feet is the entire road of the cul-de-sac, including the loop and whatever.
Right. It's from the intersection of the road that leads up that cul-de-sac road
Mm-hmm.
to the end of the cul-de-sac in a straight line. And Larry, did I answer your question? Your question,
It had several things in it.
I know,
We're missing wrong numbers.
paper streets.
Yeah,
46,
paper,
48, 50.
paper streets.
I can answer that.
Wait,
Well,
what is a
numbers,
paper
pages
street,
are missing.
first, so that I understand?
Oh,
But every subdivision that proposes new roads necessarily has to propose a right-of-way.
Okay,
Usually what the subdivision will say somewhere in it or in documents is whether or not the right-of-way is being dedicated to the town, with the intent being that if once the infrastructure of the roadway is completed, and it's completed to town road standards, then it will become a town-maintained road. That's usually the intent. However, sometimes subdivisions don't get built. And the lots sit out there, and there are what are known as paper streets. The road was never made, there were no bonds, town didn't build it. Another developer comes along, buys the whole thing, and that paper street, and I'm using that word, is on paper only. The dedication that was intended by the subdivision plat is long gone. Because the dedication meant we, the developer, intend to not only dedicate this right-of-way, but to construct a road to town standards. It didn't happen. So it's a legal term, really, for a right-of-way that no longer has much status unless a developer comes along and buys the development with the intent to put houses in there, and they come to the planning board and say, see this paper street? I want to rededicate it, and that's how that works. There's not a lot of implied rights on paper streets to the municipality, which means that I'm going to use you as an example. Here's the example. The subdivision that you live in is a cul-de-sac. Right below the cul-de-sac is a little stub on a plan. It was reserved. It was a right-of-way that was reserved for future development. It was not dedicated, and there were no rights given to anyone other than another developer or the same developer coming in and saying, hey, I'm going to build this and subdivide this stuff out here, and I'm rededicating this and I'm going to build that. That's the legal thing with regard to road law. With regard to stubs that you're talking about that could, give access for future development that makes more sense, for utilities, the planning board has to actually get the applicant to say that on the plan. There is an easement here for future water, sewer, whatever, electricity, access. And if that didn't happen, it's just reserved. It means we're planning it. That's all it means. And that is how it was with you. So in other words, you didn't have to allow anyone to go through that stub to clear cut that lot. But that's neither here nor there. Now, too late.
Thank you.
Well, then I had the town, and I had DPW come down and said that I didn't have any rights to make any of those decisions, it was the town's.
But you're talking to the wrong person.
Yeah. Won't tell my wife that.
What,
Larry.
yeah, what I'm getting more toward is my present understanding and belief, comma, that the planning board of its own authority may require adjacent parcels to construct their internal roads in such a fashion that they will meet for the convenience of the traveling public and the provision of municipal services of fire and police.
Yes,
And,
that's why they call you planner.
yeah.
You
And,
don't just look at this piece of land, you look at the piece of land behind it, or to the side of it.
right. Where does that come in?
I'll have to go through this. I'm pretty sure it's at the very beginning.
I'm just missing one.
It speaks to master plan.
Yeah.
Master planning the development of an
Eight.
area. Pretty sure it's at the beginning of these. If you want me to look now, I can, or I can, okay.
No. That,
Any more questions on 13.5?
Larry, it's on page 8.
I'm sorry, I'm only going,
Well, C1.
I'm only back to 26 on this stack that I brought with me.
Here we go.
And I remember you telling him that too, at that meeting.
Okay, yep, I missed it. Yes, pattern, that's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Yep.
How far are we?
13.6.
We're on to 13.6. Does everybody accept, as written, 13.5?
As written.
Yes.
Okay, 13.6.
Page 43.
Good luck. I'm gonna keep off. I'm gonna leave up 13.6. Where's my 13?
Street lighting.
Street lighting.
As written.
Page numbers are messed up. You got it.
There it is.
Bruce is probably looking for it too. Oh, you got, okay, you found it. All right. You beat us to it.
I probably took his.
Any opinion on 13.6?
Yep. Where does it say that
I know I was
every
getting that, that's why.
lighting contractor seeking to do work in the town of Milton will take with them glued to their body a copy of the standards established by the Milton zoning ordinance? I don't see the glued to their body.
Well, I mean, my answer is that really is a ministerial thing. That should come out of the code enforcement officer office. If somebody is proposing lights
Yeah.
in Milton, they should be doing the partially shielded and the full shielding for dark sky compliance and compliance with the IES lighting handbook, which has all of those things in it.
Basically, and then that should also go through the planning board, because they have to be all approved using through the planning board also.
Right.
So it's all of us.
The bottom line here
Nice
is
pull in.
that a reputable lighting contractor will have that handbook and will understand all those things. Sorry.
We good with 13? Are we good with 13.6?
Yes.
Yes.
As written.
13.7.
That's as written.
Yep.
Yep.
And we might get to Appendix A tonight.
I don't know, he's shooting for the moon here.
Utilities.
Wow. Yeah, you are.
The only one we really had problem with utilities, I thought, was the electric, telephone, cable, television, and everything underground.
Again, at my house.
That really creates a problem. We have the ability to modify it.
You have the ability to waive it where
Right.
it makes sense and the applicant justifies it.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that in there.
Yep.
As you know, because as the storms increase, above-ground utilities become more at risk, and if you can begin to make that turnover to underground utilities, we'll have a lot less power out.
Yeah, I think it's wise. I mean, it makes sense. I'd love to have that.
What, underground?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He fought it and won.
That was fought and we lost on one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Campbell.
Yep. But he keeps track.
So how do we like the utilities?
Yep.
As written?
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay. Storm drainage,
A small typo.
sir.
Line 2 of 13.9A. Should it be for surface, any spring or surface water that may be either pre-existing?
Hold on. I'm having trouble finding the page. Holy mackerel.
44?
44.
I know.
44.
They're not.
That's what happens when you let me remove a staple. It's all over.
Oh, I got, all right, 44, sorry.
So where would you want to put pre-existing?
A spring that is pre-existing as opposed, maybe either existing to. Existing to sounds very awkward to the ear.
Where,
Line 3, on A, line 3.
Because you do not exist to something, you usually pre-exist. You have a
Oh,
pre-existing.
we're on
condition.
13.9 storm drainage.
So it's either pre-existing to or as a result of. Well,
pre-existing.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
that's what I
See
thought.
that.
Yep.
Great.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
a technical question of the town planner. A well-known, highly respected civil engineer would not increase the size of culverts in a subdivision because he met the minimum. Has this minimum been raised to consider the onslaught of larger waters?
Okay, the answer is twofold. I think the minimum has been raised from 25-year storm event to 50. And I'm going to ask that the board retain a section from your old subdivision regulations that allows the planning board to call a developer back in, even after their subdivision has been approved, if there's evidence that the culvert pipes have not been sized correctly, given events that happen as a result. I'm not sure exactly where that is in your existing subdivision regulations, but the quick backstory is that the US EPA contacted me and said, oh, this is a great clause, and we'd like to put it in our their book that shows examples of regulations that lead to not sustainability, but keeping at bay the rising waters from the ocean. There's a word for it. I can't remember what it is, but I did talk to you about it.
Right, you did.
And they are going to add it to that handbook of theirs because Milton is one of the only communities that has that in their subdivision regulations. We should keep it.
We're before it.
Yeah,
Once.
So is that in here now?
it's in your existing subdivision
We're gonna
regulations.
just keep- we're gonna
And
put it in that one.
I would like to add it, somewhere under 13 somewhere right here, under 13.9.
Yep.
So if you tell me to do that, I
Do
will.
that. I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do that, make it so.
So that would
So,
become
yeah.
E?
It's called upsizing of culverts.
Would it follow drainage? Or is it separated by itself?
Can you say that question again, please?
I'm not saying it right. Does it follow with drainage? Storage
It's
or-
with storm drainage.
Okay.
Mhm. And I would just add I would add an E.
There.
Add an E,
Yes.
Oh, you're just gonna do it to an E. That's why I was asking that.
Yeah.
Okay.
and you're calling it what?
Just write upsizing of culverts. Let's see if I can find it.
I think Chuck had one of those on Elm Street.
You had to bring him up.
Would the selectmen interested in knowing if the legal town used to have a steam machine for cleaning culverts?
So storm drainage is two changes. In A, pre-existing,
Yeah.
and adding a new subtitle, E, upsizing culverts.
Yes.
How's that?
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Good.
Okay, 1310. Excavation and grading.
Bruce, an E. Talk about 1 foot vertically descent to every 2 feet of horizontal.
Right. 2-to-1 slope.
So if you got a 10-foot slope, you got a 5-foot drainage ditch?
That's the maximum, yes.
Okay.
As written,
That's it.
was that good or bad? I didn't hear. As written?
As written.
Yes.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
I lost the battery.
We were
I
concentrating.
got him in the desk. 1311, site preservation.
As written.
Okay.
Good.
Mr. Chairman,
1312, Larry.
back on site preservation.
Yes.
If you make a left-hand turn before Crowell's and take Old Governor Wentworth Highway through Brookfield. There is a small stream that goes across, and a house there has taken the natural topography and turned it into what will be a green grass suburban lot in New Jersey. All legal. They've got the silt barriers and whatever. There's just nothing larger than a toothpick standing vertically from the front door of the house to the road.
So their yard is clear?
If it was a subdivision,
It's their
I
yard.
doubt that a planning board would have approved the
I've
subdivision
seen his yard.
with anything happening like that.
I
However,
haven't seen Larry's yard.
people do
Well,
what
you
they
need-
do
You need to go up 125.
years later. And theoretically, that homeowner should have had to have gone to probably a couple of places, the Wetlands Bureau, for sure, and I'm not sure there's a groundwater bureau in DES or not. Surface water. There's a surface water bureau in DES because there are buffers to streams where you can't disturb the natural buffer. It may be 25 feet or it may be 50 feet centered on the stream, even if it's intermittent. Those are New Hampshire requirements. And they need to get permits for that. So, I mean, if they were in Milton, we'd go right down there and get them. But they're in Brookfield. Probably looks nice,
The
though.
building inspector makes $12 an hour,
What?
and he's also the road agent, zoning administrator.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He's quitting the job. Nice guy.
It's where money goes to retire.
Yeah.
Not to work.
Okay, site preservation, we're good with?
Yep.
Yep.
1312, fire protection.
Now, in layman's terms, water storage facility equals system.
Mm-hmm.
Or a pond?
On B, is there a typo?
Yes. Yes, it can be. A pond, a fire pond or a system.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a typo on B? If proper improvements, or should it be property improvements?
No, that's correct, but it may not
What does
be
it
clear
mean?
as to what it means, so.
Yeah.
What would the advantage to having sprinklers in a residential house be?
The advantage is when you are located in a place where the fire trucks can't get to you in a certain amount of time, before your house burns down. And some of those examples are when somebody wants a really, really long driveway. And the fire department is not certain that, well, it's not a public way to begin with, so it's not certain that they're gonna be able to get there.
Because it just makes no sense to me that I'd put a sprinkler in and then someone burns the toast and you just have a whole new insurance claim, because that's what would happen. It doesn't make good sense to me.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman. More interesting general information. There are some home electrical
And so you have
systems
two claims.
which are designed with a master disconnect for the well water separate from the house panel, so that in the event of a fire, there is still pumping water available to the homeowner and to the sprinkler system. Just fascinating.
A lot of times today, the yield from wells is inadequate for a sprinkler system, and you actually have to put in a storage tank and get it filled. But that's not always the case.
When you say home and everything, do you mean an individual home or like a home that has a shared wall to another home?
No, an individual home.
Okay. Now, is it different for a shared wall? Wouldn't it be good to have a sprinkler
Absolutely.
system in? Okay, that's why I
I
was.
think so.
Usually the
Yeah,
smoke
okay.
alarm systems and all that are interconnected when you-
Okay.
when you're in a multifamily or a duplex.
I'm sorry, you guys, I asked so many
That's all right.
questions, but it's
That's
just
all
I'm
right,
trying to
but
clear.
that's,
It helps us
that's
think,
taken
too.
care of either
Okay.
under the fire code or the
Building code, yeah.
Okay, okay, thank you.
We happy with 1312, fire protection?
Yeah.
Yep. As written.
Reserve
No, you're gonna
strips.
change what, you're gonna change proper to property?
Nope.
No? Okay, I stand corrected.
Reserve strips.
Where'd you go with that?
What am I
You're out
at?
of order again.
46,
We're on 13.
Oh, this one.
Pedestrian walks and bicycle paths.
Pedestrian walks and bicycle paths.
Let the record know the chair is out of order.
Yeah, way out of order.
I heard that earlier.
Among other things. I felt honored.
Yeah, he dinged on you quite a bit, didn't he?
How about bicycle walks and pedestrian walks and bicycle paths?
Yes.
Looks good.
Okay. Development of open space. Looks good.
I just have one little minor question. Suppose part of the open space is wooded. Can it cut down any trees to make it more usable? Or get the brush out, that kind of
Well,
stuff?
it says that you can remove undesirable growth and debris, and that sounds like get the brush out and.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next sentence does say that
That you can't?
wooded and brook areas should be left natural. And this is on the open space portion of the subdivision.
Yep.
They have to designate the open space as part of their plan before you.
Okay.
But once they do, they should follow these rules. Now, if they come up with a reason why they want to have this waived, or part of it waived, they can come up with that justification. Which may be that they want to put in a pocket park for children or something which would require removing trees. So they, all of these things can be waived for good reason.
Isn't it subjective? Undesirable growth and debris shall be removed. What I consider debris and undesirable growth may not be what the contractor considers to be.
I don't know how we could get it more specific without adding another
5 layers.
5 or 6 paragraphs.
Gotcha.
Any tree over 50 years old can be cut.
We could
You're
talk
just
about
protecting
hazel
us.
area, we could talk about diseased trees, but, you know, the bottom line is that this is things like this are like a common sense thing.
Common sense is not so common though.
Undesirable
Whoa.
growth may be, you know, it means different things to different people. You know, folks that take care of foresters, they don't want a lot of the understory stuff in there that promotes fires. But you and I might just want to walk through the woods, so, you know, you've been in woods where you can't walk. So that's the undesirable growth for us.
Behind your house, trying to hunt, example.
That's right. Especially behind that.
As written.
As written. Parks and playgrounds.
As written.
Now, this week you could part of, like, their, when they do this, it'd be up to an association to maintain this. said playground?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The town doesn't want to take it
No, no.
anymore.
And then you have more liabilities.
I guess I've got to tell you that, again, the GIS may help you as planners, because, again, let's talk about a 50-lot subdivision way over in West Milton somewhere. And in that subdivision, if it's meant for 1 and 2 family homes, which it would be, there's a chance of having on average, statistical average, about 1.34 children per home. I know you hate to hear that. In Dover, it's gone down to 1.26, but anyway. So you know how many children statistically there will be in that subdivision, and so if you look at your GIS, you see that there's no parks. There's no place for these young children to play. And so as planners, you're gonna tell the subdivider, you got 50 units, 50 lots, we'd like you to set aside a place for a park and build it. And then set up a homeowners association to take care of the roads and the park and the open space. So I just encapsulated the whole deal for you for future development. The town really shouldn't, and I'll say this because a single-family home on a 2-acre lot, taxes that come in, believe it or not, do not pay. That there's a negative balance on both what it takes to run the town for maintenance and the schools. So more you can put on the folks that live there, because if they want to live there, they'll pay that homeowner's fee. It's better for the town.
We good with parks and playgrounds?
Yep.
As written.
Okay, special flood hazard areas.
One thing I'll say about this one is that this is taken right off the National Flood Insurance Program latest, strongly recommended language.
As written.
1317, reserve strips. I'm there, I got it now.
I have a poor choice of
this-
words on my file.
This one is lifted, not word for word, but lifted directly from state statute.
As written.
That
Okay.
is still being played out down at
Oh.
Wentworth.
There are many places throughout New Hampshire that have what are known as either reserve strips or spite strips that had no use other than to bollocks the property owner that are behind the strip from being able to develop land. And so that's why there's a state statute that prohibits it.
As written, 13.
We like it?
Yeah.
Okay, 1318, modification or waivers of design standards.
Just in case you didn't read 1317.
Yeah.
I say again, I say.
Except as written.
As written. Okay, section 14, completion of required improvements and bonding. 14.1, completion of improvements.
I'd like to change the word in that first sentence to notice of decision.
Instead of action?
Yeah, because we don't have anything like that. We do have notice of decisions here. Under little b in the middle of page 49, the key phrase is unless otherwise specified by the board. In other words, the board may give a developer either more or less time to achieve active and substantial development. In other words, to be vested.
And that's tied exclusively to the bond, correct? So if the bond expires and,
Well, there's a fine line. We'll read on to the bonding.
Okay,
part of it.
all right.
It might answer.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
there was in times past one developer who clear-cut his property so carefully that the budding property owner, who was no angel, complained that the leaves had been sucked off his trees. And then, once the trees were gone, he changed his mind and decided to build houses. Where is the protection?
Well, it's somewhere, Larry, and I know that there's protection from removing materials and gravel, but I really think that somewhere there's protection from clear cutting in advance of coming to the planning board for approval.
Okay.
And if it's not there, we should add it. So you should make a note, there are other subdivision regulations in communities around us that give a 2-year pre-time limit.
Look back.
Yeah, a 2-year look back. In other words, if you own a piece of property and it's 80 acres and you go up and you clear cut the whole thing and then you wait a year or 6 months and come into the planning board with your application, planning board no longer has the ability to plan the site for the public good and for the character of the community, which is also part of the master plan. So you can't say to them, well, you don't touch these trees as a buffer around your subdivision. They're gone. So 2 years is one that I've heard of. You could go more or less.
How much of a tree's gonna grow in 2 years?
well,
Well, that
I've
might-
seen about this much in the clear cut by my house.
Yes.
And so the point is that it should be in here somewhere. If we don't find it, we'll make a note and we'll add it.
Yeah, because there was over on Northeast Pond, just giant hemlocks and brooks running through the base. It's all gone.
You probably know the land you're talking about.
And they can't develop because the road work would cost over $2 million to do. The cuts.
They should have a couple bald eagles fix everything.
Tell that to the dead fish.
Yeah. So what do we think of 14.1?
Good.
Yeah,
As written.
as written.
No, we changed one thing in it, and that was under A. We're doing notice of action instead of notice of decisions,
Right.
correct?
As modified.
As
That's
modified.
Thank you.
14.2, inspection of improvements, procedures, and fees. As written.
As
It's
written.
written.
14.3, maintenance of street and utility improvements. Fourteen three.
As written.
14.4, issuance of building permits and certificates of occupancy. As written.
So on the 14.3, go back one, 14.3. The lower
14.3.
section of B. If there are any certificates of occupancy, the building on the street are not accepted by the town may on 12 hours' notice plow the street or affect, and then charge the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the standard, all right.
Yeah, that's just for public safety.
Yep.
Right, because there's been instances in the past with private roads before they were taken over that to get a plow truck out there was
Yep.
more than a challenge, let's say.
I mean, it also, it gives weight to your DPW director to be able to
Absolutely.
do this for public safety, where in some cases, he might say, oh, I'm not doing that road. It's not ours to maintain.
Right.
So this gives him the ability to do it for public safety and then get paid. And not only do you read this document, but the folks that come in with a subdivision application read it as well.
That's good. All right, good, I'm happy.
Where are we?
14.4.
14.4, issuance of building permits and COs.
That's your daily work, right?
It's a good one.
Do you like it?
As written.
Do you like it?
I like it.
I have Brian like that.
14.5, performance security agreement.
Also known as bonds.
Mine's loud. Apparently.
These chairs are horrible. Should at least invest in a can of WD-40.
I'll put in a work request tomorrow.
Oh, it makes it worse.
But there's nobody to do it.
That's mean.
And in A, any other security acceptable to the town can also be cash submitted to go into a,
Escrow?
right, that's right. It really is an escrow savings account.
I'm sorry, is there a line you're referring to in A?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
It's 4 lines up from the bottom in A.
okay, thanks. Okay. Thank you.
This is an answer, the last sentence here answers your question, Bob. The time limit to vest, in other words, the time limit to achieve active and substantial completion of the project, vesting of the project, it is not really connected to bonding the improvements, except in one way. The longest that you can have a bond is 5 years, or a surety is 5 years. And the longest you can have with extensions from the board to have time to do the vesting, do your active and substantial completion of the project is 5 years. So that's the only thing that they're connected with. Otherwise, they're not connected. The
Right.
improvements, the time limit for vesting is the time limit. The time limit for either having your bond taken by the town to finish the improvements, plus 10%, is 5 years. And that's the way this is written. That's it.
If after the 5 years he's not done, can he rebond?
Well, that's the answer. Now, it says that
I mean, like if, what's happened in the past, like in 2008 when the economy almost disappeared. So, I mean, there was several things that were going on that we put extensions on just because of the economy.
And you can still
So,
do that.
so,
And some of those extensions shouldn't have gone on.
well,
These time limits
yeah.
are all in line with giving extensions. The time limits are all in line with that. Matter of fact, the 5-year periods are longer than what your regs say further back here, that you can extend a project for extenuating circumstances.
Mm.
Doesn't it also say, did we already go past a couple pages back, where no occupancy permit will be given until all infrastructure's done?
It all hangs together.
Yep.
Right? So
So he's not gonna sell lots and build houses.
you can't sell this one, this one, this one, and then hope to go on further, and hope to go on further, and hope to go on further like it's
You
done
have
in
to
the
get
past.
so much of the road and all the utilities up to where you're working. So I think it's 50% beyond.
50%.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
you know, I hate to be unfeeling on this one, but a developer really shouldn't take on anything like this, regardless of what the economy's like, unless they can do it. And that's the bottom line. And they stand to make a lot of money.
No, it's
Otherwise, they wouldn't
responsibility.
do the development in the first place.
That's what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, he could be stuck
Yep.
with, he could be stuck with 20 of the 25 houses, you know?
But that's part of the risk of business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
It's called
what
whoops.
happens, we see, how many times have we seen that particular developer goes bankrupt, but his equipment doesn't move, it just changes the name on the side, we drive on.
You know, additionally, if the town sees that the developer isn't gonna make the 5 years, and that a lot of this has happened, he's built a lot of the infrastructure, the roads are, you know, have had the 2 lifts of gravel on it, they put the utilities in, the stormwater drainage. The town should take the bond, plus 10%, and finish it. And what does the developer get out of it then? He doesn't get his bond back or released, but he gets to be able to sell the lots and build houses.
Yep.
So that's kind of why this is here. It's not a completely bad thing. That's why you have to have the surety.
Yeah.
And the next section gives you a process for reducing that surety as things get completed satisfactorily.
Yep. Yep.
And this works the same with a phased thing?
Yes,
Okay.
and the surety would be predicated upon each phase. So the time limits are discrete within each phase.
So he could, if he had 3 phases, he could get 15 years out of it?
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
It also shows the town he did his homework though.
Hmm.
He was smart enough to know he should do it in phases,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Right.
Instead of just going out there and saying, I'm gonna do all this in 5 years with a hope and a prayer. As written?
Works for me.
Okay. Section 18, repeal.
No.
Nope.
Section 15 amendments, page 53.
Page 53, amendments, section 15 amendments.
Yeah,
Oh,
that one.
half of them got copied, half of them didn't. Got a problem with the way I'm doing this?
Not at all, you're the boss.
I'm just checking to see everybody's awake. Amendments.
I probably should change Office of State Planning to this super duper space age title, Office of Strategic Initiatives.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, right, down the little box down at the bottom, yep.
Strategic initiatives?
That's what they
Or-
changed the Office of State Planning to.
Yeah, that's used elsewhere too.
Do they still call it that?
Yeah.
You need to write in or meeting when they change it again.
Severability is legal mumbo jumbo. It just talks about if we're all bollocksed up in one section, all the rest of them still apply.
As written.
As written, yeah. Authority Adoption Amendment. Yeah, this is, goes at the bottom of your cover letter. Your cover.
Did it change that December 14th, 2010?
Yeah, that's probably when the last one was done.
Right.
Yep.
December 4th,
Yep.
2010.
Everybody happy with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, 17, severability.
As written. Way too legal.
Okay, section 18, repeal.
And this will just talk about the 2010 subdivision regulations are repealed.
Yep.
As written.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
19, adoption and application.
As written.
Okay,
I think it's pretty much as written for the other two also.
19.1, appeal to the Superior Court.
Yeah.
19.2, appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment.
As written.
As written. That'd be it.
Ta-da!
I think we should probably wait on Appendix A until next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already missed 10 minutes of this.
I knew that was coming. Knew that
Get a
was coming.
bond advisement.
This one is where the rubber meets the road, so if you really get a chance to look at it, this is where we really tell folks how we want roads to be designed and constructed, depending on the traffic load. This is a technique that we used very successfully in Milton Borough, which is kind of like Milton in regard to the roads that lead down to the lake and places, and people coming up here from Massachusetts want to live on top of the mountain, and you know what I'm talking about here. So the bottom line is that these road standards on page 3.2 of Appendix A is in a table form. If you look it over, I'd appreciate it before we see it next time. It is for any road that's constructed, whether it's a town-maintained road or a road that will become one, or whether it's a private road. That's how they have to be constructed. So, you'll see. Average daily traffic is 0 to 50. This is the column for that. And then it goes from 50 to 250, 250 to 400. I don't know if we'll ever get that here, but I think there's a typo too here. But I'll fix it.
Do you have any more comments tonight, Mr.? No, no
Well,
comments?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Your next meeting, which is going to be on May 21st, you will have a public hearing for a minor lot line adjustment application, and the plan is pretty good. There's only a couple things I'm going to recommend to you, so they've done all their homework.
Okay.
And we've got another one that's for a retail site plan. Yep.
Is that for the
It's
antique
picking
store?
up. The work
That's,
is
no,
picking up.
that's the meeting after. We have
Oh.
just sent out their notices today.
Oh, okay.
And we have, had we not had to go through the ZBA and pass Article 3, that would have been already taken care of today. Minutes of April 16th, 2019.
I'm making a motion to approve the
I'll
minutes.
second.
Joe made the motion.
Ryan second.
Yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't have any other business.
Good. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's never a problem for them.
Do you think you could shoot, I hate to ask this, but for the appendix A, I don't have the appendix A. Oh, if you don't mind.
I'm gonna give it,
Oh, you're so nice, thank you.
Did you email us that?
Yes,
I did.
he did.